Well, we're thankful that you guys have all joined us and hope you are getting a lot out of this conference, and we're excited about that. And also excited about hearing some of your questions. But before that, I wanted to just recognize some of our UT Southwestern Sepsis team members. So we have Annie Montgomery, Karen Wang, and Annette Villarreal. So we're very thankful for you guys. And we had Scott Minnerly earlier. We're thankful for everybody that's here, and especially the Dallas-Fort Worth Hospital Council. So we're going to be taking some questions. And also wanted to add, we have a resource list for you guys in your email. So you all should have received an email a few days ago with these links. They're really useful. They have a lot of great resources. If you want some sepsis stories and awareness, I know they talked about the Rory Staunton Foundation. There's also a Faces of Sepsis campaign that's really useful. We use that in our hospital. So use these resources for your different clinician groups and your nurses. So if you guys have any questions afterwards, if we can't address them right now, we can definitely talk to you all afterwards. So without further ado, if anyone has any questions, we'd love to. Yes, we'll start over here.
Where does procalcitonin play?
Okay, so the question was, where does procalcitonin play a role in all of this?
And I think it's very specific to different organizations and different physician groups. So some people feel that it's very helpful and some people feel it's not helpful. So it depends. So I would put that personally on a second tier of the labs you want to check. I think the primary tier are like CBC, electrolytes, certainly glucose in patient kids, ionized calcium in patient kids, and obviously lactate. Then there are other labs that people find helpful, and procalcitonin is one of those. We have debates, there's endless debates in the ICU about is it helpful, is it not. So it will be probably second tier, but some people consider first tier. Is that helpful?
Great, thanks so much for that question. Anybody else? Any questions about fluids or, oh, back there. Long walk. Here you go.
I have a question about how you, regarding fluid resuscitation, how do you convince the doctors that if you have a fluffy person that is going to require 3,000 or 4,000 cc bolus, getting them past it's a cardiac patient, we can't give them that much fluid. I mean, we've talked and talked, we've read the articles, but we still get that pushback.
One of the ways that we work with our physicians in that realm is if they need more than 5,000 milliliters, then they will give it in dosed boluses. They won't give it all at one time as we would somebody who's only going to get 3 liters or 2 liters. But the guidelines clearly state that it doesn't matter. We had a patient the other day that their bolus was going to be 10,000 milliliters. This was a very fluffy person. So what we did was we gave the first 2 liters, and then they looked at the patient, they gave another 2 liters, looked at the patient, gave another liter, and stopped at 5 liters. But you can also use that cardiac ultrasound and look at the IVC and see what your collapse level is and see what your ventricular function is, and that can help drive your fluid resuscitation.
The other piece of this is sometimes you're not going to hit the measure because it is not clinically appropriate to hit the measure. The physicians, they have a lot of debate back and forth, just like the nurses do, but sometimes it is not clinically appropriate to give that 30 mils per kg bolus. That's very few of the patients, and for those, if that's what the physician in their medical judgment says needs to happen, you're going to miss the measure, but that might be best for the patient. That is, however, something you will need to very carefully look at in your quality control, and something that we need to be talking to CMS about, which there are a lot of conversations going on with CMS, that there are certain patient populations that should be excluded from the measure. But what they're trying to get across with this, and what the message at the end of the day is that when these patients get the right amount of fluid and treatment early, they do better. So they're trying to get that message across first, but there's always going to be clinical judgment in that mix.
We have an obesity epidemic in children as well. So we tend to, and we dose everything on weight. So it's per kilo, but we tend to dose on ideal weight. We will give a liter of fluid and stop, a liter of fluid and stop, a liter of fluid and stop, a liter of fluid and stop. But the key is to get it in fast, so you're not going to spend an hour giving a liter of fluid, you're going to push it and give it really fast and then assess. And so you can get in, it's by no means in the ICU after 24 hours. Most of the time these really sick kids, we've given 200 per kilo of fluid. That's a huge amount of fluid if you look at a small kid and you add it up over time. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about per kilo how much we're giving, 200 per kilo is not unusual. 100 per kilo is probably average. So by the time you're finished your resuscitation, it can be a tremendous amount of fluid. And even with cardiac patients, the big thing is to give, some is better than none, and give it and then assess. Just don't spend all day giving and all day assessing. And just keep at it until you have a response, and then rapidly determine, do you need antibiotics?
Another thing to consider is that some physicians just need to see the evidence. So I agree with all of the recommendations of my colleagues here, but the resource links that have been provided for you can take you directly to a lot of the research that's out there, and you can bring it to your physician colleagues and have them review the evidence that's out there. So that would be my recommendation as well.
Great, thanks so much for that question. Anybody else? Any questions? Oh, great.
Is there anything you could say about how you get the other non-nursing clinicians sort of involved in the urgency of sepsis, like the respiratory therapists? I feel like they know their key roles in it, but I don't think they get the same amount of impetus necessarily.
That's that key part of getting them at the table. They are a stakeholder too, and they need to understand where these guidelines are coming from and what the repercussions are. Because we all know that if we don't meet core measures, that they can withhold money from us coming back. So I usually try to get them at the table early. That's why when you do a process map, you clearly identify everybody that has touched that patient, and then you pull those in and go, these are the members of the team that I need here. Because you can fix a process. I mean, I've been on teams where we have fixed the process only to come down to implementation and realize we don't own the process. We have spent hours fixing a process that we don't own and don't know the regulatory behind it. So get them at the table and get them involved with it, because then they can own part of it. Then they can take ownership. Because unless they own it, they got skin in the game, ain't gonna happen.
All right, here's my soapbox. And I've been on this soapbox. I've done it for our regional Texas meetings. I've done this on the national things. How many of you all have a CPR card? How many of you all have an ACLS card? How many of you all have a sepsis card? There should be a national program to educate healthcare providers on the appropriate rapid care for a sepsis patient. You should have to do it as often as you do an ACLS or a BLS training to get all of us up to speed and understanding what's going on. Until we have that, the best thing you can do is make sure that the different departments that are going to be touching these patients have had some kind of hospital training, education, going to their meetings, your sepsis coordinators going out, something that's going out and training your providers on how to identify, how to treat, how to raise the flag. But we desperately need a national coordinated effort in which to train for sepsis. I was thinking it should be the Society for the Sepsis Association, something along those lines, but I keep coming up with really bad acronyms and I can't use those.
And I just wanted to add, it's also really beneficial to have a sepsis debriefing committee at your hospitals if you don't have one already. And at UT Southwestern, we have a multidisciplinary group that meets every 2 weeks. And the fact about the data, we review the data, we review mortalities, we review sepsis compliance. So doing this kind of weekly or even bi-weekly really helps. And also with respect to the different roles, we have patient care techs, patient care attendants, that actually get SIRS alerts. So when the patient meets SIRS, they can then go and alert the nurse to further assess the patient for if they have altered mental status or Rigers or suspected source of infection, and kind of allow the nurse to see if there's any organ dysfunction and suspected sources of infection. So you can definitely use different roles for sepsis care, and that's what it's all about. It's a team sport. So any other questions?
I have a sepsis card.
Great.
If she wanted to
Oh,
say something.
yes, sure.
So here is my hand. I'm a frontline person. I am the person at the bedside. What we did is we worked together as a team because I work with those RTs every day. So once we got my managers in the back, once we got the managers together saying, you know what, this is the best thing for the patients, they then talk to their folks and then we start challenging each other. It's a blast. We're like, really? I got to that room before you did. You forgot the ice. We made it more of a challenge and made it a cool team because all the players wanted to. Our pharmacist thinks that they can get the fluids to the patient faster than we can. So I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's just making it all part of it, and then we all share what our results were. Wow, our time to bolus this month was 34 minutes. Awesome. Wait, no, we have 4 more minutes to go. But just really sharing the data made a big difference too.
Thank you so much. We have any? Yes.
I think one of the concerns that I have at the bedside is when should I be concerned when I shouldn't? I know we've got all of our numbers, and whenever they start going up, I start looking at those and when to call an RT, that kind of thing. But when I have a patient that I'm already giving antibiotics to, I'm already giving fluids to, blood cultures have already been drawn, when those numbers are changing, what should be key in my mind and what should the bedside nurses be looking at? Like, well, the blood cultures were done more than 24 hours ago. Like, what specific point should we be looking at?
When you look at your Muse score, that should be your indicator, I have something to worry about. Because if it continues to go up, whatever you've done hasn't met what that patient needs. So start going back through and thinking, where is my source? Do I have more than one source? How many times do you have a patient that comes in with pneumonia that it actually has a UTI at the same time? Maybe I'm not on the right antibiotic. Those are the elements that you have to get to. If your Muse score is elevating, you haven't quite met that measure. You haven't gotten all of the sources to be able to identify that this patient is getting better. And when you walk in the room and that gut tells you there's something not right, listen to it, because your Muse may not be going up yet, but your nurse sense is going, there's something not right, and you just go through your entire system and think about, did I give fluid? Do I have this on board? What is the antibiotics we're getting? What makes this different than it was when the last time I walked in this room?
So it is possible they went through the ER, they've got the initial boluses, they're now 2 days into it, and my numbers are going back up, that we might need to start at 0 again.
Exactly, you might need to. And we've talked a lot about that care coordination. That really does mean you need to talk. So if I'm looking at it and, yeah, we got the cultures, and yeah, we have them on the right antibiotic for that culture, but something still isn't right, that needs to continue to be a conversation so that then as clinicians you begin to dig deeper. And you have the ability, you really got to talk to each other and look at the information you have available and start to have that index of suspicion rise. Because you might have them on the right one for that one, but not the right one for the one that you didn't find.
And one of the big initiatives in pediatrics, and I'm sure it's in adults as well, is the people who come in with one thing and they get something else. So they may come in with sort of a low-grade infection and they're having a surgery for something and then they become septic. And to be honest with you, it's much easier, I think, in some ways, if you're expecting, when somebody comes in and you're looking for sepsis, you're looking for sepsis. When they're on the floor, when they're here recovering from their surgery, you're not really looking for sepsis. And we need to change our mind shift to start looking for these things and expecting these things. The worst outcomes that I generally see are the kids who have been on the floor and they think they have something and they're going down this pathway, and it's like they're so far behind by the time they get people recognize that actually now they have sepsis, that we're hours behind, which the studies show it tremendously affects mortality. So we need throughout the continuum of the hospital stay, we need to be looking for, are things getting better? Is something else going on?
Thanks so much for that question. Yes, sure.
Question is more along the lines of the decision support system. I'm on our third informatics team. You talked about, because they handed it to me. No, we're really excited because we're implementing Epic right now. So
We need to talk.
My questions were about the predictive analytics, and you use several tools and how you combine them in one BPA and where you go from there. So
Well,
I would be interested in
We have our contact information, so if you go to and get the slides in this, our contact information is in it. Most of us are Epic shops, not all. And like I said, we're really pushing our vendors. So I'm gonna go non-vendor neutral here for a second. For Epic actually has within its foundation system, they are now building a predictive analytic tool specifically for sepsis. It is a non-charge item. You have to sign an additional contract with Epic to get it, but it is a non-charge item that will run those predictions in the background for you and then be able to do that. We're installing that now and are beginning to do our level of evidence to see how well that tool that they've developed is going to compare to what we already have in. So you have lots of things that are available through your vendors to be able to do. You just really need to, like I said, push them hard, and then know what you can build in. I am blessed that I have some of the most fabulous builders on the planet for Epic, because when we installed Epic, there was no foundation system. We had to come up with it. And so we have some very sophisticated builders that have helped us do these things, and then Epic has adopted that going forward. But Epic now has some really great tools for that along that line. Even if you're not in Epic, your tool, your EHR has ways to do this, and there are other apps and other applications out there that you can use until you can do that. But if you're an Epic shop and you want some information on that, please feel free to contact us. We will be happy to share and get you the information from Epic.
And the organization I work for, we are not currently using Epic. So from a generic standpoint, there is a science around decision analysis, decision making, how to have our electronic health records and technology help us make decisions. So you do need those people at the table, but you also need your end users, you need your builders. So again, a collaborative approach. What I meant by end users, so you're right, our end user clinicians, they all need to be at the table, because what is built in the technology needs to work for our clinicians at the front lines. But it does take time to do that work and to do it well, because what you push out to all the clinicians needs to work for the clinicians.
Great, thank you so much. Do we have anybody else? If not, we'll be here afterwards, and we can definitely network with you guys. Thank you again for attending, and we're grateful that you guys spent your time with us. Yes, go save lives.